What is the best list for you for real estate wholesaling? So all of this really depends on where at inside of your business you are. Although there are a few lists that I really recommend for most people when they're getting started inside of the business that they go after. So that way they can close deals as fast as possible, but as well as like have more of like a higher motivated seller concentrated list. Now mind you, out of a list of let's say about 1,000 leads maximum, you could probably close out of that list, I would say like maybe 3 to 4 deals maximum, and that would be if you did amazing work and it was a high motivated seller list and you were able to do a good job with it. So with that being said, as you can tell, you're gonna have to make a decent amount of phone calls and bring out a decent amount of leads. But if you close 3 to 4 deals out of a list of 1,000 leads or 1,000 people on this list of whatever you're getting, that could easily turn into $30,000 to $40,000 of deals being closed if you're averaging about $10,000 a deal. Now, mind you, all of this is granted that you know what you're doing, you're closing on average $10,000 a deal, and you're able to work at a high efficient rate. So what we want to do for you as a beginner, or if you're the average person that has a business that's already closing a few deals every single month, what list will fit you best into that scenario? So right off the bat, the first list that I recommend to literally everybody to go out there and go get as a first list immediately, and this was what I started with when I was getting lists and everything for when I was starting out my marketing campaigns, was to get the tax delinquency list. This is a list of people that are delinquent on their taxes, which basically means they're behind on their taxes. And it's almost kind of the same as when you don't pay your mortgage down every single month. The bank will collect your house. The county will take your house if you don't pay the taxes on the property after so many years of not paying the taxes. So basically these people are usually pretty motivated because the taxes in relativity to what a house costs is usually significantly less than what a mortgage would normally cost. Like over a span of a year, if it's like a $200,000 house, at least in my market, that would be about like $1,500 a whole year. So if someone can't afford to pay $1,500 on taxes over a year, then you can see how these people tend to be a little bit more motivated. Now, if you don't pay off your mortgage for a whole year, or even like 6 months, you're gonna start having like a collections agencies coming after you and everything. So the fact that you can wait so long to pay your taxes, usually it's like 3 years, and then they start to take away your house and put it on the auction and other things like that. These problems start to arise with everything going on. So you want to focus on this list first. This is my main list that I recommend everybody go after. So the second one behind that one, this one is usually a little bit more complex to get. In a sense, it depends on the county and what state and city you live in. But the next one that I really recommend for you to go get is something like a probates list. What a probates is basically when someone passes away, the people that are relatives, usually like the son or the daughter of the person passing away, usually ends up with this house, and it goes through the probate process. So this point for probates, a lot of times all of a sudden they're given this house, but there's all of these fees and all these different costs that go into owning a property. You got to pay off the mortgage if there is one. You got to pay taxes. You gotta figure out something to do with this house. And a lot of people, when someone passes away, they have no idea what to do with this house. They just inherited it, or maybe it's split across a couple of siblings and they just want to cash out on it. And usually these people are pretty motivated. So the only problem with the probates list is usually some of these people are in a little bit of harder times. Depends on how recent the person passed away that owned this house. So you got to be a little bit more delicate with these conversations that you have on the phone with these types of sellers. But this is usually another really solid list of high motivated sellers, of people that are inside your county. So right off the bat, I don't care if you're closing 20 deals a month or if you haven't closed your first deal. These two lists are probably the most effective lists inside of your county. Now, I can't give you a guarantee on that because every single county is different. I don't know what type of marketing looks like outside of your county, But for general terms across the US, these are usually the two best lists. So if you're closing 20 deals a month, go get this list. If you're a beginner, go get this list. The thing is most of the time, this list is free inside of your county. Not always, sometimes they do charge a little bit of a fee. I've even seen some ridiculous of like $500 for a list of like 5, 6, 8,000 leads. So you got to be aware of that. But most cases, every single county should be able to get you this list for free. Both of these lists, it's usually a little bit of a hard process to get, as in like nobody really knows what you're talking about, or they just kind of like, oh, I have no idea, maybe go talk to somebody else. So you have to find the right person in the county that will give you this list. But there's always somebody that manages this portion of their database, and they will be able to give you the list, or at least give you a little bit more information on how to get it. But these are the top two lists. So let's say that you're closing a decent amount of deals, or you've like hit these lists pretty hard. You're calling them multiple times. Maybe you're even sending them some marketing pieces, some direct mail pieces, so that way they're getting hit from all these different angles. Maybe you're even knocking on the doors for some of these higher motivated leads inside of these lists. You need more leads to be able to fuel your business. So the next step is, honestly, it just jumps from doing these like really concentrated motivated seller lists to purchasing equity lists, which basically what an equity list is, somebody that owns equity in a property, which basically means if the house is worth $100,000 and the mortgage has, let's say for example, $50,000 that they still owe on the property that they have to pay off, they own 50% of this property technically, so that is what the equity is on the property. So they own 50% of the equitable share of what the house is, and then whoever the mortgage lender is owns the other 50% until that's all paid off in full. So what you want to do is find people that have a certain equitable percentage of their house, or they have so many dollars worth of equity in this house. And this is usually like a big list for those that have the ability to make a ton of phone calls or send out a lot of marketing pieces towards these leads. And that's kind of like the big jump. What you do is you just kind of target the smaller list until you're able to consistently be able to close deals off these lists, because usually like the tax delinquency and the probates, there's new leads going in there every single month, or every few months, or every 6 months. So that one's kind of constantly updating. But once you need to kind of scale past that, once you move into an equity list, those ones are usually a little bit more targeted. And some of the middle ground, like these are a little bit polar opposites. One's super motivated, a concentrated list, and then the other one's like kind of like a general list that will have motivated sellers, but it's a pretty big list, so you gotta have a team to be able to tackle these types of lists. In between, usually you can get like vacancy owned, also known as like absentee owned properties. So vacant houses, absentee owned. Another one is like a code violations that would kind of like fit into this middle ground. Code violations is basically people that, let's say the grass is 12 inches in their property, and you have to have, the most it can grow is like 8 inches or something like that. And then what they'll do is be listed on this code violations list in the county, and usually these people are taxed if they don't fix this problem, or if there's garbage in the driveway, or just something that goes against the city guidelines. These code violation lists are usually a little bit motivated sellers as well. But what you do is you kind of just take it one step at a time. So if you're a complete beginner, get some of these more motivated seller lists. If you don't have the resources to be able to get these lists and be able to skip trace them or send direct mail to them, then what I recommend is doing like something free, like driving for dollars, or, well, it wouldn't be free, but pretty low cost. Driving for dollars, Craigslist, for sale by owners, some of these free marketing strategies. But once you have a little bit of budget, then I recommend getting something like the tax delinquency, probate, and then kind of leveling up to the vacant properties, absentee owned, and then moving over towards an equity list. And that would be kind of like the strategy that I would go with. And once you get to the point where you're closing consistently like 5 deals a month, 3 to 5 deals, then what I would do is kind of just rotate all of these lists. So basically, like 1 month you just purely focus on tax delinquency, the next month you purely focus on the absentee owned, and then the next 2 months maybe you focus on the equity list, and just keep building up this pipeline so that way it aligns with when there's new leads. in this new database. So whatever the refresh rate is, I don't know if it's like weekly, if it's monthly, if it's biannually, whatever it is inside of your county, inside of your state, for being able to get this data. But set it up on a schedule so that way you have like a year-round schedule where you're targeting different lists, so that way you're constantly bringing in leads and pulling out all these different sellers that could be potentially selling their house at a discount in the near future, so that we can keep building up your pipeline and closing more and more deals. And this is kind of how you scale the business. Obviously, you gotta figure out a little bit on the tools or the softwares and the people that you gotta hire for being able to scale this up. But this is the strategy and the route that I would go if I was a complete beginner trying to look at a big overlay of all this, or if I was an advanced wholesaler trying to figure out how to pull out every single deal possible from the resources that I have available. So anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you got some value out of this. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. Also, if you haven't already, join the family, join the game, and hit the subscribe button down below. And like always, I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Peace.